on defense. And it's just, I think the thing about it, you know, again, playing YFP and then playing Lander in the last 2 weeks on this map in particular, Lander, we're trying to run a little bit more of that lockdown setup where they've got a deadlock in play, and that was difficult for Envy to deal with. This is Cubert playing a little bit more straight up and looking to play a little bit more brawly, and we're already off to the races with opening trades. Cubert coming out on top of those trades, leaving Inspire by himself. And yeah, just we got a little bit of breathing room here. Just seeing the Vice in play is not a surprise. This is just going to be down to how forward does the Vice want to set up in combination of the Neon. So that's going to be the biggest thing for me to look at, I think.
Yes, 100%. You already saw every other member of Cubert is going to be more than willing to get proactive on top of their own angles. Redux walking in on top of the screen and grabbing 2 as soon as Envy exits. And in the meantime, Satellite holding his own on B main. A perfect start for Cubert Academy in a round that is made quite simple very quickly. Inspire will be given this spike for free at the very least, though, but with the toxic screen, he's gonna have to just burn away that clock. Cubert just reducing all these possibilities for Envy to try to make something out of this round. Appreciate how immediately they've turtled up and prevented this attacking squad from trying to find something in the headspace to grab something out of this pistol.
And just to kind of speak to the last week performance for Envy, I know there's a lot of eyes on, whoa, what the Phoenix wants to do, but pause. Inspire, well, he's about to get caught off guard here. What I was going to say is, you know, all eyes on the Phoenix in terms of the value, because it's just an agent we don't see all that often. Kane Zera did have a great offensive half. He was 12-4, but the interesting thing about that half is that, honestly speaking, they didn't get as many first bloods as I think they would have liked, if you're looking at that from Envy's perspective, especially comparing it to what Lander was able to do. They had 6 first bloods out of their Rays, but for the offensive side for Envy, they only had 4 first bloods out of the 7 rounds that they won. So there's a level of them making it work later in the round, kind of around the spike plants themselves, and then being able to outduel on the site thanks to the double duelist. So it's one of those things you look at and say, well, why not more first bloods with the duelist? But when you're playing with tempo and like a controller or a sentinel finds your first blood, the thing is you're easily able to trade it back, which is exactly what we're seeing right there. Redux in the follow-up, though, is good, and numbers will still hold with Cubert.
Looking for stability anywhere, anytime, and Envy find a semblance of it for a microsecond on this following B execution. But quickly burned away, and Inspire, yet again, the only one left to go. He'll take a lot less time this round to let himself be known, and that's going to be 2 for 2 on Cubert, doing everything they need to stop Envy from gaining any ground. The mid-fight's been very decisive to start, and of course, Envy not really leaving anything up to chance for the stack on the pistols. So this will be a really decent buy from them coming into the bonus round, and they'll definitely slow things down a tad.
Yeah. See how things develop, though, again, for Envy. Just how do they find the value after they're maybe not finding the quick first blood that they want? I think a lot of that is just off of, okay, we're committing one player in, maybe they get blooded, but we're setting ourselves up to still overwhelm the defensive setup. Right. And being able to trade back that first blood to where you have early 4v4s. And when you're doing double duelist and your first death is a duelist, you really don't lose out on your composition as much, because you're still getting the ability to play off some forward pressure, as Cubert will take a bit of a peek through B long. Nothing home, but this crossfire setup could be nasty, as Redux will have the ability to fast lane and get out if he needs to. Paranoia will follow up and maybe a chance to peek.
No purchase for Redux, but they'll run right into Caillou, who dinks one with that Sheriff and can now stabilize with the stack on A. And he's still looking for that opener to really capitalize onto a site. Exter will finally let that shear go so they can place some pressure onto the A site the spike is moving towards.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those, again, where you look at it and the Vice setup is once more very passive. And if Cubert choose to play this map the same way they played Sunset, which, to be fair, like, this is kind of just a weird off-the-rails call. But this map reminds me a lot of Sunset, just based on how the sites are set up. It allows for things like this, where you can kind of lurk off of initiation. But that A site does work a lot like how Sunset's does. So Wouldn't be surprised if Cubert play a little bit more reactive off of retakes instead of try to play for the early aggression that NV wants to play with the double duelist.
Spike's on the outside of the door. Nismo has to try and fight Ion early on to deal with this in the hallway, and he's finally able to deal with it with the help of the Guardian. Now swinging out onto that doorway, and Cubert have a lot to fire with to make it work. Extra just firing through the smoke to get the easy kill on top of the Spike, but he's now the only one left in his position. Is known. Nismo gets a third on the swing outside the smoke, and Cubert, like you said, play into the retake mentality and make it look pretty easy along the way. They take the bonus.
Yeah, really good stuff. And I again, if I were a betting man, I would be willing to wager that that's going to look like a lot of Cubert's defenses. Don't let him get free entry to site, contest him a touch, but if it feels like there's more at the front door than you want to deal with, just back off and we'll play for retake. They've got so much extra utility off of things like the stall tactics from the Vice, the stall tactics from the Viper as well, but just most importantly, being able to play off paranoias on a couple of the spike sites that are really, really tight. It just allows you to siphon out and split the post plant really nicely. And when you've got the ability to throw paranoia one direction and then Redux can dive into the other, yeah, I would be willing to wager that Cubert's going to play this a little more defensively, kind of like they had, you know, in the passive nature that they did on Sunset.
Yeah, just allow Envy to allow themselves to get overwhelmed. Right points. Swing out on a mid. Envy not watching it. Inspire gone. That Lurk not going to find anything this time. And Envy's pile is still not through the doorway of A site, so doesn't seem like they'll be able to find much on this execute with the eco, but still have a lot of ways in to at least start fights. They just can't really finish them with the guns. Redux does eventually get overwhelmed. Cubert is here to fight things out, and they should have enough guns to throw at the issue. It's just about making sure you don't lose too many along the way, and with Caillou keeping his distance with the help of that shock dart, Cubert's able to do that. It's 4-0.
Yeah, perfect start, and it's kind of business as usual for Cubert in that last round. Second opportunity here for Envy to try to establish something with their full purchase. And the ultimates that are available don't give you a ton. I think the only thing that's kind of unique about this double duelist as compared to seeing, you know, a Yoru and Neon or Yoru and ISO is the fact that you've got multiple ways to feel out of sight before you have to commit to it. Things like the run it back, which is so quickly earned, but also the dimensional drift, which is not the world's longest ultimate to earn, gives you the ability of kind of breaking down the site and seeing what's in front of you before you actually commit. And I think that's a level of, again, how Envy can manipulate 4v4s really nicely if they're losing those first blood battles that they had been versus Lander. You drop one, well, okay, we still have a duelist that can break down the site, get some entry, get a secure post plant, and then we're playing a 4v4 on our terms. Like, that's just kind of this play style that Envy is often kind of defaulted towards, and playing a double duelist where they again have the ability of establishing that kind of gives you that intention a little bit more. Now, the thing that comes as a bit of a negative against that is as you use something like a run it back, you better have enough forward pressure to commit to keep someone like Kainzera safe when he does get teleported back, because there also is the way that Cubert can find info and then dive back on you if they so choose to, thanks to the Neon being in the comp. So there are a couple of things that, as much as Envy's going to feel like they've got free entry and on execute, they will have to be a little bit cautious on who's in front of you and where is that Neon.
And there's got to be a really good buddy system established, and oh man, Envy, I mean, they haven't really offered anything into mid thus far this game, and Cubert have just sprayed down and grabbed the free 3. Caillou's Odin, find him crazy. Ion able to grab Redux on the run out, so at least they grab the spike, but I mean, that's a decisive start to the round again that Cubert come away with, happily able to just completely abandon mid. We've done our job there. We can just hold the main lines now, and it should be pretty easy from there.
Yeah, that is stopping the play before it happens. If you're Envy, you're just trying to find, again, some sort of a split setup over towards, I would imagine, BA.
I know.
But the round's not done yet, and Inspire's going to find some space to work with on Elbow. Just can't win the follow-up gunfight. Knight's trying to get away and will. And it's going to leave it just down to Ion for a 1v3. You know he's capable of this.
Back into the hallway. Not red, but Satellite's on the way in from the link, so Ion's going to go forward. High-low is a little bit off, but Knights has the right line. So Cubert will indeed make it 5. And Yeah, I mean, that again was just so instantaneous and so good for denying. It has to be, like I said, it has to be very interlinked when NV actually go for the execute, because like you said, when you have that Phoenix able to get the intel of how exactly to approach the site, that is as committal as Corrode gets. That is, you know, that plays so well into the mentality of, once you've made that call, it is now or never, all or nothing. We have to get this, and we got to make it work. NV, they thrive off of that, and it's just doing nothing extra.
Oh, no.
8 on his dimensional drift. That's the first time that he's faltered on his own ult this entire match as well. The cracks are starting to form here, but NV can still overwhelm the majority of the site, take over, leave Nismo standing alone. Everything else for NV worked out that round, then it'll get him on the board.
Yeah, and I was going to say initially, like, I was surprised that both the dimensional drift and the run it back comes out, but at the same rate, you're in a limited purchase. Why not use 2 ultimates that can get you deep onto site, find a couple of picks, and then your teammates behind you can upgrade their weapons? That's exactly what happens, because initially, looks like that wasn't going to be enough to get through it, but we'll see it on the replay. You got the run it back in play. That's 1 down. There's a moment where you thought that the run it back teleport was going to get stuck, but there was a save that comes through at the last second to keep Kanzera into his second life. And then, yeah, all the weapon upgrades afterwards just lead to too much firepower for Cubert to deal with on the site itself. So using a lot, but getting a lot is Envy. And they can reset this first half here if they can follow up with going back-to-back.
Well, Redux has been spotted by Inspire, just a hair. That's about the amount of Redux that he'll be able to cut off. It's the Owl Drone just to re-clear main. Cubert stack heavier into the main here. Caillou with that Odin to set up Satellite in the trap, and it's not checked. Toxic Screen shrouds him away for the reset, and that's a third given to Cubert Academy before they even get on site.
It's just one of those things, like, sometimes the best solution is the easiest response. Just play off of your own toxic screen, keep yourself in a corner, get a little bit of help from your teammates on site itself, and then pop off. I mean, that's just a different moment from Satellite. We've seen it a couple of times in this head-to-head matchup, but it comes at a very pivotal time where Envy, once again, are about to set up for that same double duelist hit. Doesn't work out, and now you got to work up against adversity here in the 2v4.
No choice but to just run out into Knights. Beautiful snap. And Inspire yet again, the last body standing. Having to just go for it. And Caillou steady watching. Continuously clinical is Cubert Academy here in map number 3. Managing mid early, then extending to the sites. You see the traps getting set up the moment they know they can take the space. Extremely opportunistic, extremely confident, but still reserved. Everything is going right for them so far.
Yeah, it legitimately is just one of those games that nothing's going wrong for Cubert. And it's a level of, like, again, I love the idea of the setup of how Satellite's playing off of his own utility into B main. He's got help with Caillou nearby. But instead of just getting a 1-for-1, he ends up finding 3. Like, it's just... You're doubling down, you're tripling down when you least expect it to happen. And sometimes Valorant's just like that. You just end up getting that little bit of timing for a collat, a little bit of a timing or a snap that just happens to land. And we're going to see a quick rotation once again for the defense, trying to get on to stop this play with limited purchase for Envy. Trades are decent. Orbital strike, and they come back to the site too.
Very late. Kanzera, though, extends and kills 2 on the outskirts and leaves Nismo by his lonesome early on in the post plant. Inspire going to be able to pick up a gun as well. Nismo, every reason to just walk into this and go for it. But Envy have the setup once again. It seems like this is really what they want to commit to. The fast, high and dry B take. And they can just flood on, make it work after the fact. Is Nismo's attempt. A Rose available, but Ion steps out and deals with it himself. So 2 on the board now for the attackers. It is such a tough ask, but it is one that Envy clearly has enough to do with in order to actually get on. You just gotta make it happen over and over again.
Yeah, and you can see those the last 2 rounds that Envy have found success with those big burst plays, one towards A, that most recent one towards B. If you were to go back and just look where Cubert fell at, where the eliminations happened at, they're all on the backside of site. So there's a level of Cubert, again, giving away a little bit of space at the choke point, trying to contest, not to give the site away for full free, but this map a little bit more difficult to contest the choke point and then find an exit out. I think that's the biggest part here for Cubert. It's like,
yes,
you got to go back through B link. That's just an easy choke point that you could be funneled in through mid. Same thing for A, like backing off the site's just really difficult because it's essentially boxed in completely around the walls. So it's a tough ask for Cubert to think about contesting the choke points when it's a full 5-man flood like that, and then being able to get out to restage or retake. So that might be part of the conversation here. One of the most successful things that we have seen has been, like we saw from Satellite, kind of playing in front of the barrier with a little bit of support. And then if he gets a 1-for-1 and you just trade out that death, then you're still hanging around. Same situation. We've seen Nismo set up the Vice utility a little bit further forward at A. Have not really seen it pay much of an impact yet, but I would be willing to see if they're going to continue to try to put their sentinels and controllers a little bit further forward and then respond with the Neon and the Omen later.
Yeah, you'll see Nismo playing right on top of the Sheer and the Vine as Cubert gets very aggressive up mid while that fire gets placed. Cyber Cage already placing some pressure on the push, and now the Nightfall comes down onto the A site, mostly unoccupied, and the Sheer is going to prevent Envy from getting on top early. Extra's the only one that can make any distance, but he makes a hell of a lot of it.
Yeah.
Already into the hallway. And the Steel Garden in response here from Cubert isn't necessarily to fight it out, it's just to get Cubert onto the site. Huge TP in from Knights, actually. This is a position that Envy may not expect so early on, but still stuck in the hallway. It seems like they might reposition themselves, extend back over to the link. And here comes Knights again, catching the corner and creeping back away. Reset on the blind, kill number 2 for Knights. And number 3 as well. Ion tried to double in. And now it's the sandwich from the rest of Cubert. They can exact and they can decimate.
I love that. I mean, initially, Envy doesn't have a choice. They have to wait for the Steel Garden to expire. But Knights stepping up, and it's just in a position that really doesn't go unnoticed. Like, if you're Envy, you've had to hit the brakes really quickly through elbow. You should know that Cubert's got someone on site. It's just the problem of you have to clear the crossfires as you exit elbow while also trying to find the player on site. And what's the one thing they don't have? They don't have something like a Sova. They would only be able to get a read off of Poppin's utility, and he uses Haunt and his Prowler to get elbow control. So they don't have the ability to find information while they re-clear. All you can do is hit numbers and try to flash your way out. Doesn't work, and a first blood to make matters worse comes through for Cubert. Looking good for an 8th already.
Another free spray down mid, and it wasn't even Caillou's Odin that was doing that. At least Envy are getting a little better at dealing with this Vice util early. Nismo now forced to play a little farther forward, and they actually goaded out Knights' paranoia because of that, expecting Envy to just try to punish after losing that first channel, but instead they're going to stick around in mid and see if they can get away with a second kill. Smoke re-upped, though, from Cubert as they continue to hold fast. Oh, Inspires at 1!
It's just they can't do anything wrong. Now you got the span back up. It's just, it doesn't matter if you've got a smoke. It doesn't matter if there's a wall in front of you. The Odin can just lock down mid. The freedom that Cubert is creating for themselves defensively has got Envy completely crossed up. And honestly, I just don't know what you could do different in these last couple of rounds to best what Cubert's throwing their way. They're playing so well left. Reserved and just causing so many issues for these double duelists for Envy, and that might be what ends up costing them in the long run here is we will get a plant and a 3v4 post plant with a Stinger still in play for Egster.
Allowing this again purely to take back. That's where the power really lies. Knight's able to TP as well. You can really go for a mix-up and force Envy to check their backs at any given moment. You can just rip this site in 2 really with the help of the wall bangs as well. Slowly turning into this Ion, holds it down for 1. Unstoppable forces for only a moment. 2 stay standing. Cubert make their way to 8, and I couldn't agree more. It's really hard to know exactly where to go from here for these last 2 rounds, because Envy, you know they want to play mid a little bit heavier, but they're just getting sprayed instantaneously and dying. You know they want to get rid of this Vice Shear earlier on, but that just allows Cubert to push in even heavier on the openings to be an A, depending on how much weight they've applied to each side. Again, much like the previous map, it feels like despite the fact that Envy is able to exact upon mistakes very quickly and turn rounds on their heads so instantly, Cubert have such a read and understanding of how to respond very quickly that it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think the other part is, like, you even see on that retake right there, there's an arc rose in the backside of elbow that gets used first, and then a recon bolt to make sure no one's at elbow. So then again, you know that Envy's stacked. And that's what this composition does, is it has to stack itself up. Even here, a show of, again, mitigated aggression from Cubert, but you've got safety protocols to get you out. Dimensional drift for Envy. They're going to try to commit through this, see if they can find the kills.
I mean, they did everything to try to find Redux, and instead, Caillou ends up getting a kill with the shock dart, popping, though, inside and causing some havoc, letting Envy in.
I know exactly.
And it's just enough space that was gained, yet again. It's just W King that works. Envy still lose more every step of the way until after it's all said and done. And from there, well, you're just stepping into a smoke. Ion has an easy 2-piece, and Envy is up to 3. What a strange way to win rounds. Even when Cubert still looks so dominant, so ahead of things, Envy, as long as they're just faster, as long as they just hold their shots in, they still win.
Yeah, and I think, again, 2 of the 3 round ones that they have are off the backside of a dimensional drift and limited purchase in their weaponry. I mean, that's a Bucky and a couple SMGs that, again, get upgraded. So it's, yeah, a level of, well, if it works with lesser weaponry, why don't we just do this with our actual big guns? Problem is, when you don't have the ultimates to clear the space, you have no way of actually guaranteeing yourself an entry. The Nightfall is available with the Orbital Strike here, plus the Run It Back. So, again, assume that we're going to see a similar A break-off that we had from the first round that Envy won, where they used the Dimensional Drift and the Run It Back. This will be a Nightfall likely to clear off one of the angles, the Run It Back on the other, and then you can get a plant, and you can play well off the site this time in your post plant, thanks to that Orbital Strike. So, here we go. There's the Run It Back. No Nightfall here, and cainzero actually finds no information whatsoever, plus a Hunter's Fury to block the choke point. Brilliant response as the kill comes through.
That's just a perfect way to get rid of all of those threats. The Vine was even placed back a little bit farther to prevent cainzero from moving any more and Redux getting that early kill. That's just perfect timing in every sense from Cubert. Envy forced to take the long road over to B after mid has absolutely zero guarantee. Cubert could have stuck Redux way up here. So they'll have to commit a little bit of extra time to check in that, as the TP from Knights is just going to doubly confirm that Cubert can start heading over to B as well. Caillou,
good recon.
Clearly hold. A lot available here. The Nightfall into the Orbital Strike is going to fully clear the site, though, and this is Envy's chance.
The thing about it is Cubert still have numbers, yep, and they still have a couple of the key pieces of utility to re-clear this site. Most notably, you still have Redux with full utility, and you're still getting a couple of the dry peaks from Inspire. Satellites teeing off for 2, and you have to pull from inside the site.
Ismo, gearing onto Ion, Satellite, trying to hold it, popping, spraying pretty well with the Odin, but there's more than enough this round to make it work. Cubert step back onto the site and overwhelm, making it a 9-3 half, easily
Yikes.
the least dominant attack that Envy has had on this map, and one of the least dominant halves that Envy has had in any map, period, so far this stage. And it could be one of the last ones that Cubert has to play here in the Swiss. They are 4 rounds away from being your first seed of the Stage 3 playoffs.
Yeah, and again, just to kind of speak to the statistics, at best, it's only been a splitting of the difference for Envy on the defensive side. 2 different 6-6 results when they start in the first half on defense. So different because it's a second half affair, but it's the same issues that we saw from Sunset, where it's just the double duelists are not getting the entry that you want. Not only just in gaining space or kills, but it's just not enough where Cubert are playing off-site and just playing retake, essentially. And you can see it in the pudding right there. It's an 8 to 23 KD between the duelists combined, which is just not good enough at all. So lots of pressure here. You have to win this pistol, you think, if you're Envy. Good bait and switch to start.
Trying to duck into it. Cubert still trying to win out the pack fight. They still have technically more players, but Envy do have a lot to offer to this. Though no flash at this point. cainzero already used it. Will go ahead and heal himself back up to give Envy some even footing as Cubert are forced to look elsewhere. With Redux on this Neon, they're able to make a lot of space up mid very early on, so cainzero is going to get a bit closer to that link door than other duelists normally would, letting Cubert know that they may have a little more space to take over A elbow. They still have to deal with Ion, though, and he has a smoke available. Don't know he's given away yet, but there's the smoke. Cubert have to choose to get ahead of it now or never. Envy, they'll turn onto it as soon as that smoke goes into Link. They've got to be quick on it, and they won't even go towards elbow. They'll fully avoid this Brim holding it down. Save for one, and Nismo's got it under control. Every semblance is Cubert's. And now they've got a hold on the post plant. Pop
Yeah,
it.
I don't know how you break back into these sites when you lose them like this. I mean, it's just unbelievable because your only stall tactic you have if you're Envy is off the Cypher. And if he picks the wrong site, or if Cubert get a read and choose to go to the other direction, Redux is going to be able to scale deep. Because it really just comes down for me is like, Envy really only have the ability of playing off of a pop flash from Zera if they want to get any early aggression. Otherwise, you're just setting up one-way smokes. And Envy, doesn't matter if you're playing a duelist, the initiator, or a controller, but an agent behind a one-way smoke is just an agent behind a one-way smoke. Doesn't matter who it is. So you would have to think that if you're Envy, you want to try setting up some trap plays, but the map just does not allow for them to do that. I think especially just the play style that Cubert are throwing around is just so respectful of the nature of they're playing double duelists. Let's not force anything and play on their terms. Let's just milk them out, see if we can find any intel, and then we'll play when we get a response.
That's exactly what they're going to do again. Let the damage come to them and then deal more of it back. Zera trying to set up shop so he can be that raid boss on these opening corners as Eggster tries to hold his own on A main. Once again, Nismo winning the 1v1 duel, and Cubert just continued to play the waiting game until Envy try to make their way back, try to claw at something to even a round out. And it's just not happening.
No. And they're going to run out of time here because this was a forced purchase on the defensive side into the Stingers. Yep. So they're going to be in a round of 11-3, where, again, the purchase is not going to look much better than it did here. If anything, it might even look a little worse. So not good news here for Envy. Have not seen Cubert on the map, but I don't even know if you can really put a lot of benefit into this composition. Whoa, hold on. Hoppin may have a chance to destroy this round.
You reload time now.
Yeah, and so to finish that thought real quick, it's just, I don't even know if it's Cubert's comp that's just dominating the map, or if it's more of just Cubert's understanding of what Envy wants to do and just not letting them do that, as simple as it sounds.
Yeah, I think as Roy said, I don't think there's any like definitive composition. I think Cubert's is really great, but I think like you said, it's more understanding how Envy operate, not only on this map, but just in general. Just really starting to punish a lot more often and understanding at what points Envy gets desperate there. That's honestly a really tragic turn. If Knights turns his head just a little less than that, then Poppin probably gets away with 2 or 3 off of that one spray. But sadly not to be, and now Cubert 2 rounds out. I'll already start shopping in mid here. Envy clearly wanting to get those spray kills back. They're already contributing a lot to this.
That's one prowler down, and it clears a little bit of space through stairs for this walk-up, but again, Cubert just are not going to care. They're just, whatever. We'll just have someone watch flank. That's going to be Satellite. And he's got an outlaw, so it's just like, you don't want to peek that even to shoulder because that can lead to an early elimination. And yeah, they're just going to do a walk down. Again, this is just doing your discipline. Use the owl drone. Don't be surprised. There's a relay bolt in the corner. Smokes to block off the outside. Isolate the site. And then do what you do best.
Finally forcing Eggster to TP away. A site is Cubert's. Envy choose to fight this early. Shot card from Caillou. Just terrific understanding that Envy is already here. And boy, are they ready to die. Give Knights 3, give Cubert 12, give 9 rounds of match point to Sentinel's Cubert Academy.
What is this little micro flick?
That was nuts.
That was disgusting out of Knights. It looked like he like spazzed out for a second. Do we have that on replay?
He's just so
like
clean
that's
with
fine.
it.
And then skip. Like what?
Yeah. It's so
that's
jittery.
disgusting.
It's insane. Hitting a 20 bomb here in 15. Soon to be 16. Could be the last round we encounter here as Envy's buy is once again pretty shoddy. Cubert have absolutely 0 bodies posted up in mid. They've done all the conditioning they need to do, and now they can barrel roll onto a site freely. It is still the one that has all the Cypher util, so we gotta cross our T's and dot our I's. We gotta be extra careful.
But it really is just spy cams, though. That's the thing. Inspire will get a little bit of a late reveal thanks to the fade, but honestly, that's not going to be enough to challenge this. This smoke at tower is just too deterrent. Now you got a spike plant already.
Let's get this party started. Zera flashing himself in, and there's a double flick swing available. Redux good for 2 on the outskirts, and Cubert only have 2 more players to deal with. Ion traded for 1, and it's all down to Eggster in the 1v2. Redux slow, though, holding the outward angle. Crossfire attempted. 1 slide is all you need.
Attackers win.
And what a way to end things, as it will not be Envy as the first seed going into playoffs for the first time all year. Rather, Cubert Academy steal the title away and will go in as the first team to leave the Swiss stage on a high note.
Unreal stuff. I mean, that's just discipline with the capital D.